everyone. Welcome back. It's lovely to see you all back. So two challenges have come up this morning so far, insomnia and being alone, feeling alone. Okay, so we're going to address those two issues. If you have anything else, either unmute yourself or raise your hand or pop it in the chat. And there's something I want to share with you as well that's going to help with the exercises. So before we move on to all of that, I just want to check in how everyone's doing and whether you were able to, how you got on over the weekend with your target practice. So was everyone able to do some target practice? Yeah, very good. And how did that go for you? Was it fun? Was it good? Did you manage to do it? Excellent. And anybody not able to do it? And as I say, if you, yeah, Carrie, okay. And were you not able to do it because you hadn't got because you weren't on Friday, or were you not able to do it because you were trying and it didn't work? Oh, let me unmute you. Hold on. All right, sweetie, there you are.
All right, okay. It was because I didn't know it was an assignment. I did not see the Friday video.
Fair enough. Okay, so you're excused. so that's okay. So
but I did try to use the methods for other stuff.
Very good. Okay, so basically the assignment was, and I think you've been doing the superpower course, so I think you know about, you've probably done the assignment before, and it's target practice on inanimate objects, yeah, on the bed.
Yeah.
So that's good. So, and that is good to do all the time, even after you've, once you've reached master in that, I still do it. Just to really keep those skills up and to keep yourself filled with that power. So that's good to do. All right. And so any other questions or requests for clarification or anything before we get started on today's session? Bogislava? Oh,
yeah, I like to just add to this, maybe I'm worried a lot about other people. Maybe that's the bigger issue, that being alone.
Very good. You're worried about, okay, excellent. And so when you're worried about other people, what's the thing you're worried about? Like, what's the thing you're scared of or worried?
To not get sick.
Right, so you're worried about them getting sick. Okay, very good. So we'll come to that as well. So if I forget, so I'm keeping all this in my head, unless Steve, you want to write it down. But if I forget, if you'll remind me. So when I come to, I'll remember the alone bit. So if you remind me that that's actually the part that's important there is the worry. Very good. Thank you, Bogislava, for adding that to the schedule. And then someone asks, could you explain the target practice? This is my first time. Okay, so first of all, welcome. I'm glad that you were able to come. And okay, so the target practice is you get into the. Have you seen any of the videos? Do you know what the exercises are? Okay, good. So when you get into that state where you've filled your, you've hugged your subject, you've felt the energy going all the way through you, the light and energy, and you've hugged the little you, and then you've filled all your cells with that love and light and energy. And then the next stage that we did, which was day 4, I believe, day 4, was where your subject starts to not want to be with you, as they reject you or they try and get away, and you keep them filled with that same love and light and energy, even as they're trying to get away from you. And then the target practice bit is from there, you open your eyes and you start aiming that same feeling at inanimate objects. So your coffee cup or the chair or the window or anything like that. And that's the target practice. And the purpose of it is it's nothing to do with the object itself. It's a way of developing that state and that skill, making it stronger. So the more you do that, the more you aim at your toothbrush and, just inanimate objects that you don't have any emotional attachment to, the stronger you start to become, and you build that those levels of feel-good chemicals in your system, and you develop that skill, so that then when it comes to things that you want to address, things you're worried about, things that you don't want in your life, and so on, you're more able, you've developed that skill to aim it at those things, and that's when you start to see changes. Does that help? Very good. All right. Okay, very good. And so the thing I wanted to add to, so what this week is about, so last week, and so anyone who's watching this video, if you haven't watched the videos from day 1 to day 5, do go back and watch all those, because that will be all the information you need and the exercises you need to be able to move forward this week. What this week is going to be about is addressing specific issues. So you now know the exercise to get into the state, to get into that empowered state, and you've got an exercise of target practice to build that ability and that skill and that state. And now we're going to start aiming it at specific things. So it's important to continue to do the target practice as well, especially in the beginning, to keep those skills going. So before we move on to specific issues, I want to share with you an important thing to remember, and that is when you are triggered, so when you're feeling bad in any way, whatever that is, when you start to get into this state, so you start to feel your heart open, and remember that if you can't feel the feeling immediately, you can't imagine holding, or you're imagining holding your subject, but you can't feel the love. Remember that you're focusing on the physical feeling in your chest of your heart opening, even when you're not feeling the love. So do that physical thing first and then allow the love. Now, here's what will happen. Usually, depending on how long you've been triggered for, there's an overlap. And that I realized when I was speaking to someone over the weekend, it's very important to know that there's an overlap. And what that means is that you will continue to feel bad while you're doing the heart opening thing for a little while. Because remember that the stress chemicals are being turned off, the stress tap is being turned off, the feel-good chemicals are being turned on, and they're weaker. So there's a period of time where you're feeling bad and opening your heart, and as long as you keep that, then it switches to the feel-good. So when you don't feel good immediately, as you start doing the exercise, don't stop. It doesn't mean it's not working. It just means it needs a little bit of time for maintaining that state for it to actually take effect. Does that make sense to everyone? Very good. Good job. All right. And so, right, so let's start on the specifics. So, as I said before, we're going to work on each person's, whoever has brought something to work on, we'll all work on it together, because of course, the more practice you have, the better. Now, you can aim at the person's, that particular person's issue, or you can just aim at your own stuff inside your own mind, and that's okay as well. So whichever you prefer. But as long as you're practicing, you're getting better and better each time. All right, so I think the first issue that came up, if I remember correctly, was insomnia. So I know, Kathy, I know you had an insomnia thing. Do you want to just share a little bit how that worked for you?
For me, I can get to sleep okay, but I often wake up around 1 or 2, and then I have to read for an hour and a half, up to 2 hours before I can go back to sleep.
Right. Okay. And so when you started using the exercise and you were doing that, has that resolved for you now, or is it still challenging?
Well, it's kind of hit and miss. If 1 week I might not wake up at all in the night, Other weeks, it might be 2 or 3 nights a week.
Okay. And when you wake up, are you using this exercise?
Didn't even think to use it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, let's look at, I know that, that the insomnia issue was, what else can we do? And did you want to add any details to how the insomnia is an issue?
Well, for me, it's like, it's the issue of falling asleep.
Falling asleep in the first place.
Yes.
Okay. And what's happening as you're trying to fall asleep? What's stopping you from falling asleep, or what's the problem with it?
Well, I think, what happened to me last night is that I was going over some details in my head. It was like going over it over and over and over again. Right. And it wouldn't stop.
Okay, very good. And so I know that you said that some of the advice that I gave to Kathy last time in one of the videos was helpful. So did you try that with unpacking your head? So making a note of, excuse me, the details that were going on, and then.
Well, the advice I thought that I liked was the pre-paving.
Pre-paving, yes.
Like whenever you think about it during the day, and then sending love.
Yes.
Like no matter what happens. But I wasn't able to send the love.
Okay, very good.
To the fact that I was not getting any sleep.
Right. Okay, very good. So that gives an idea of where to go with this. So what that is it's just a case of practice. So when you were thinking of, when you were trying to send the love to the fact that you wouldn't sleep, or if you didn't sleep, were you doing it earlier in the day when you were already feeling good, or were you already feeling triggered when you thought about it, when you tried to do it?
I think I was feeling pretty good.
Okay, all right.
But so just the thought of not being able to sleep triggered me again. And I lost the feeling.
You lost the feeling. Okay. And so what does it mean to you that you won't be able to sleep?
Well,
what's wrong with it?
Because I think that now especially is a time for people to get rest.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing, I think that will help as well. When you think about, like tonight, let's say you're going to go to sleep tonight, or you're going to go to bed tonight, and it helps to have a contingency plan as well. So when you think about going to bed tonight, plan to first of all prepave before you go to bed. And even if you can't love the fact that you can't sleep, send love anyway to, if you can sleep, so send what love you can. And use your color, use your favorite color if that helps. Because sometimes when we can't feel the love, the color can be a kind of bridge, a little stepping stone to being able to feel that love. And secondly, have a pen and paper by your bed, so that if there's anything going on in your mind, you're going to write down 1 or 2 words to remind yourself you'll sort it out tomorrow, or you'll think about it tomorrow, or you'll address it tomorrow, whatever it is. Because your brain, very often when we have stuff going on and on in our brain, and you're not alone, I mean, that's a very common thing, and I've had that in the past a lot. It's because the brain thinks it's important to hold on to it and doesn't want to, we need to address this now, we need to make sure we don't forget. The act of writing it down is not so much for the conscious mind, but for the unconscious, where it's a thing of, it's been taken care of, or there's no danger of forgetting it because it's now on paper. So you have that by your bed, you write that down, and every time that happens, you write it down, and then you go back and you take a deep breath and you allow it to, allow that breath to go out, and you think of your color. And every time your mind wanders off to the, to the thinking again, just bring it back to that color. Keep bringing it back to the color, especially if you've already written those things down. If a new thing comes up that you haven't written down, or a new thought about that, write it down and then go back again. So you're constantly bringing yourself back to that beautiful color. And then, as I said for the other one as well, the focusing on the feeling of the breath in and out of your nose, the feeling of that cold air in and out of your nose, and your mind starts to wander, and bring it back to the color and in and out of your nose. And the key to this is to be consistent. And so you may find that you weren't even, what I found before, that, my mind's off on a tangent and I don't even realize it until, several minutes later. And it's like, okay. But each time you notice it, just bring it back. So it's like if you're house training a puppy, you don't want to get frustrated with the puppy or angry with the puppy, because that's not going to help. The puppy's just going to get worse. So you want to just calmly pick it up and put it outside. And each time it goes to pee on the floor, you just pick it up and put it outside with no emotional attachment, right? So you don't want to beat the puppy, because people don't like people who beat puppies. It's not nice. So, okay. So you want to just pick it up and put it outside. And if you think of your mind as that puppy, and every time your mind starts to get carried away with something, and it's not going to go, it doesn't want to go to sleep, think of it like the puppy and just go, it's okay, purple. It's just purple. Everything's purple, or whatever your color is. Just keep bringing it back to that color and the breath in and out of the nose. And then expectation is another part of this. So when you are doing this, so when you're training the puppy, you're not expecting the puppy to get it the first or second time. When you take that puppy outside to pee, and then the next time he goes to pee on the floor, you're not surprised, because that's what puppies do. And it takes repetition for them to be trained, right? And it's the same with your mind. So when you start to redirect back to your color, so you've written things down, you go back to your color and the breath in and out of your nose, you're not expecting that to work first time. Know that it's going to keep wandering off, because that's the way it is at the moment. And know that every single time you bring it back to that color and the breath in and out of your nose, you're establishing that new connection, those new neural connections, and that takes repetition. And eventually it will come to the point where all you're thinking about is your color and the breath in and out of your nose, and before you know it, you'll be asleep. Does that help? Very good. All right. And Wanda?
Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I have a question. Can you do the same thing for hot flashes?
Yes, indeed. And we spoke about this, in fact, just very briefly on Friday, I think it was, someone else brought up the hot flashes. Yes, you can, absolutely. And so what I said there as well is you can do that, and also focus on as if you're in a tropical island, so that because again, it's the meaning we give to things. It's not the thing itself, it's the meaning we give to it. So if you were like on a tropical island in the sun in your bathing suit, and you had that same heat, you wouldn't question it. It's just you're sun tanning, and that's the heat that you have when you're in the sun. But it's because we're not in the sun and we're behaving like radiators that it seems that then there's that disconnect. So it's again what the meaning we're giving to something. And so another thing that works for me, so I have the hot flashes quite a lot, and what I do, in addition to imagining the tropical thing, you can also think of cold, think of ice cold. It's so cold, the snow. It's about where you're putting your mind as to how it's being affected. But the other thing that's quite fun to do is imagine that heat that's already radiating out from you. Imagine that as light, energy, and love. And that's, you can turn that feeling into, give it that meaning. And that makes it more, calm. Because with the hot flushes, along with, you know, so many other things, the more stressed we are, of course, the worse it is, because we're pumping up that, you know, that energy and those stress chemicals and everything. So the calmer and more peaceful you can be, and let that wave, you know, it comes, let it come, and notice where you're putting your mind as it's coming, and then you know it's going to go eventually, however long it takes. Does that help?
Yes. But another thing is like hot and cold.
Hot and
So
cold.
you get hot,
yes.
and then you get cold, and then you get hot, and then you get cold again.
That's right. Yes, I know that well. Steve laughs at me because I keep putting on my things, taking them off, putting them on, taking them off. And so again, you can, you know, again, I think a big part of it, certainly for me, and I think for others as well, is the expectation, is that you know it's going to happen. So, you know, it's when we fight something that it starts getting more, it's like thrashing around in the water when you're, you know, if you're drowning, you don't want to be thrashing around, you want to float. And so you can see this as floating. So it gets, you get hot, you take off your jumper or whatever you're wearing, you know, your coat or whatever, and you get cold again. Know that happens, so it's not a surprise, and then just put it back on. So do what you can without fighting it, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? Very good. And the thing is that, you know, these kind of processes they're part of life. So there's nothing wrong. So it's not like a medical issue. This is something that happens for most women. And so it's also good to know that you're not alone. And the other thing that can help is to find it funny, because, you know, it's certainly not going to do any harm to find it funny, and it can do a lot of good. And I haven't actually seen it myself. I must look it up, but there's a show called Menopause. It's a musical comedy, and a friend of mine was in it in South Africa, but I didn't see it. So I bet there are excerpts of it on YouTube. So you could search YouTube for Menopause musical or whatever, and find those. I'm going to do that as well. I must remember to do that, because the more you can find things light and funny, and that, the lower the effect, the lower the, you know, the negative effect.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Wanda. Okay, we have in the chat, I have the same thing of getting to sleep okay. Oh, I have the same thing of getting to sleep okay, then wake up a few hours later. I find I have to avoid any stimulants, even if I have them early in the day. That makes all the difference for me, even though I really miss chocolate. Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing that. And so, yes, you know, stimulants can be, you can try eliminating that. I have found that what we do with our minds is, although stimulants can have an effect, what we do with our minds has a lot more impact than anything we ingest. So, and you know, now that I'm learning a lot more about the very small of neuroscience, and so exactly what's happening with molecules and things inside the synapses of those neural connections, including the effects of things like caffeine and other drugs, and exactly how they work. And more I am seeing proof and evidence that the way we feel has a much larger impact, physical impact, in the brain than, or at least as much as things we take, because what we take, the drugs we take, and caffeine and all of those things mimic existing brain chemicals that we are already producing. So there's a lot there. So by all means, you know, experiment with stimulants and that, but it's put your priority on where you're putting your focus, which is determining the chemicals you're already producing. So hopefully that helps, but thank you for sharing that. Someone says, I get songs stuck in my head. Oh, I know that feeling so well. I can't tell you how well I know that feeling. So with that, and this is going to sound weird, but weirdly it works. If you have a song stuck in your head, try singing in your head or out loud Jingle Bells. And I know that sounds like the opposite of what you want to do, but it works. And Jingle Bells does not get stuck in your head, but it does make the other song go away. And that's not scientific. I have no idea how it works, but my sister actually recommended that to me, and it works for me. So I don't know, you could try it and see how that works. But again, in addition to that, the calmer you are, and the more you can, the more you can bring back to the color and the breath in and out of your nose. And you could also try imagining that song is playing on the radio in the background. So again, it's perception, because as long as you're thinking, I've got this song stuck in my head, that's a very different feeling to, oh, someone's just playing that song on the radio in the background. And then you can feel more relaxed. I can go to sleep while that song is playing. I don't have to actually sing along with my head. So hopefully that helps as well. All right, so we want to go on to now the issue of being alone. Oh, so someone says, before we go there, I was wondering about that. If chocolate affects me, because I believe it does, but I also wonder if eating chocolate would train my body to stop producing the feel-good chemicals, since the chocolate is giving them to me. So that's a very good question, a very good point. And I would say definitely not. Yes, chocolate has an effect, but it doesn't have enough of an effect to replace your own brain chemistry. And there's two reasons I'm saying that. The first one is that the effects from chocolate are not as strong, for example, as when you're in love. Now, it produces a similar effect, but not as strong. So you could be eating chocolate and be in love, and the chocolate wouldn't mean that you can't feel the effects of being in love. And so number one. And number two, I love chocolate. I eat chocolate, and I still can feel, I still have a lot of feel-good chemicals going on. So I don't think that that's a worry. And I think that everything, the idea of chocolate, I think it's degrees. You don't want to be eating a lot of anything that's, that's not good at all. So it's balance. But I think that change your references first. Practice the state, change the references first, check if there's any childhood references for the effects of chocolate and that kind of thing, or what's the worst thing about it. Do that process and change those before you start eating the chocolate, is what I mean. And then perhaps have a little bit, one little square, and enjoy it, and then see what happens, and just go slowly like that. So hopefully that will help, but it certainly won't stop you producing feel-good chemicals. That I can say. All right. So on to the feelings of being alone. And again, you're very welcome, sweetheart. The feelings of being alone and the worry, which is what we had earlier to address. And so what we want to do first, and this is, we don't do this in these sessions, but the first thing I would say, of course, Boguslava, is go to any childhood memories and change those. So you want to do definitely, what's the worst thing about being alone? What does it mean that you're alone? Because as I was saying earlier, being alone for some people means being abandoned, or being sad, or not worthy, or lacking, or lost. For other people, being alone is wonderful. It's a relief. It's a luxury, you know. So in fact, somebody we were speaking to last night said their son, their roommates have gone home for this these circumstances, for the isolation. So he's alone in his apartment and he's over the moon because he's got the place to himself and he's enjoying himself and that. So it's about, like with all of these things, it's about what meaning is it, has your subconscious given it? And then also, where are you putting your focus? So when I'm alone, for example, like there's been, Steve and I spend pretty much 24/7 together, which is wonderful. I'm very grateful for that. But there have been times when he's had to go somewhere and I've been on my own, sometimes for a couple of days. And if I were to put my focus on the fact that he's not here, then I would be feeling sad, I would be missing and all of that. But I put my focus on what am I going to do with my time? So, I can watch a movie, I can write, I can do this, I can do that. And here's the key. Whoever you're missing, as far as your subconscious is concerned, could be in the next room. They could be in the loo. They could have popped out to the shops, but they could literally be sitting in the next room or asleep in the, in the bedroom or whatever. It's only your conscious mind that is actively going over the fact that they're not here and this and that. And so, and you have control over your conscious mind, even if it's just constantly bringing it back to the color, bring it back to the color and the love. So that's one thing. But your subconscious doesn't know. Just because something's not in front of you doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like I say, they could be in the next room. So then the second part of this, so the first part, check those childhood memories, change those. And then the second part is zero tolerance for any negative thoughts or feelings, which means as soon as you start to think about this, the fact this person's not here or what you're worried about, immediately bring it back to the color, the love. So what you want to do is replace all worry and missing and regret and whatever else is there with love and appreciation, because none of the negative emotions and thoughts will help. They won't change the situation. They won't bring the person back into the room with you, and they won't protect the person either. So they're not going to get rid of the reasons for worrying. On the other hand, the good feelings, the love, the appreciation, the connection, that will keep you connected to that person, regardless of where they are. It will keep you in a stronger, more empowered state. It will keep you physically healthier, and it will maintain that bond between you and that person. Negative emotions, even if they're worry or missing, they separate that bond. Positive emotions, love and appreciation, strengthen the connection. So that you want to get to the thing, and I used this example, I think last time, where my mum died in February last year, and I was unable to get there before she died. I was on my way. I was at a changeover in Dublin on my way to South Africa to be with her, and she died while I was on my way. And there's that choice, do I go down the route of how she's not here anymore and I can't just pick up the phone and speak with her, and I didn't get there in time, and what was that like for her that I wasn't there? I could go into, and there was certainly that temptation, because being human, it's natural, we want to focus on the danger. We don't want to, but we're designed that way for protection. So there's, and even today I could think of all the reasons that it's, she's not around anymore, and what does that mean, and what does it mean about me? I don't have a mother, and all of that. But there's still the conscious choice that you can choose to redirect. So what I did was, in addition to, of course, using what we're doing here, which is the unconditional love, I choose to focus on how much I love my mother, how much I appreciate her, all the wonderful things about her, how funny she was, how witty she was, how entertaining, all of the good stuff. And that is a choice. It doesn't feel like a choice sometimes when you're triggered and you've already got the stress chemicals in your system, but that's when you have to override that and remind yourself, where am I putting my focus? It's natural to feel sad. It's natural to feel missing and longing. So it's not that that's wrong. It's just that you have the power to change it, and changing it is about love rather than anything, any of the negative things. So it's not that, a lot of people say, well, if I don't miss the person, that means I don't care. Not at all. It's the opposite. When you don't miss the person, you're focusing on how much you love them and appreciate them. And though all of us want to be loved and appreciated. And so that person you're missing wants to be loved and appreciated. And as for the worry, the same thing. So one of the things you can do with the worry is imagine that person being surrounded by a white light of protection. And, the hazmat suit that we came up with in one of those other sessions, put your own hazmat suit on, of unconditional love, and then imagine them in a hazmat suit of unconditional love as well. And the stronger you can maintain that love, the more powerful that is. So I hope that helps. Do you have any questions or need more suggestions or anything else bothering you there around that? You sure? All right. Well, you let us know if anything else comes up, but maintain that love as much as you can. Keep reminding yourself this, see yourself as powerful. Fill yourself with that love, that when we go through these exercises, and then imagine it spreading out and filling everything else like Superwoman. All right. Very good. Okay. So let's see, in the chat we have, my son lives with me, and when he was gone for 2 weeks, I initially felt him missing. So I started imagining he was in his room and was able to actually feel that he was there. Thank you for sharing that. That's a perfect example. Exactly. Your subconscious does not know if the person's, and if you think about it, when you watch a scary movie, even though it's just a movie, your brain and body go into the same state as if the threat was real. The same happens the other way around. If you start to imagine that that the person is in the next room, and you allow yourself, so in other words, you get your conscious mind out of the way and allow yourself to think about, just daydream, are they in their room and they're listening to music or they're doing whatever, then your brain and body will start to produce those same chemicals. And the same with hugging someone. If you imagine hugging someone, that's why we use that for the exercise. Again, your brain and body start to produce the same chemicals as if you're really hugging them. All right, very good. And so what other issues to work on today? Hi, Cheryl, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us. And so for those who've just joined, just to let you know the way these sessions work. So last week's sessions were developing the exercises, learning to do the exercises. And this week we are addressing specific issues. So we're going to actually aim at these issues as well. So first of all, we're just collecting issues to work on. So and you can either ask in person by unmuting yourself or raising your hand, or you can put it in the chat. So someone's put in the chat, this weight I see in the mirror, what do I do with this feeling? I seem to be expanding. I send it love, but I get back, no, you don't. Okay, so I'm not quite sure I understand. So you're sending love to the weight you see in the mirror, but you're getting a conflicting or a contradiction. The contradicting thought is what I'm
yes.
understanding from that. Oh, hello. Yes. Okay, good. So so two things. Before you start aiming at that target, at your weight, practice more with inanimate objects. Have you been able to practice with inanimate objects this weekend?
Yes, I have. Yeah, yeah.
Very
But I
good.
forgot to do that in the mirror, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. So, and that's okay. It's very easy to forget. So, and this goes for so thank you very much for bringing this one up, because this goes for everybody. It's important for everybody to remember, is that if you start aiming for a particular target and you're having trouble, so you're getting that kind of contradicting thoughts, or you can't feel it very strong, go back a few steps to, it just means that that target's a little bit too difficult for the skill level you have right now, or that you're not fully loaded. In other words, you haven't filled up with enough of that power before you start aiming. So, you know, if you've got a water gun, if it doesn't have much water in it, you can't really get a good shooting thing. So you want to fill it up, and that's the same, fill yourself. So just go back a few steps and practice on inanimate objects a bit until you've built up that that supply, and then try your target again. Okay, and in addition to that, with things like with targets that are, if you're still struggling with that, I would say do the references. So in other words, what's the worst thing about this issue, or how do I know it's a problem, and then how does that feel? Go back to your childhood. Where in my childhood did I feel it? It may have nothing to do with the same topic. So it may not be about weight. It may be something else. And then change those childhood memories, and then have another go. And as you do that, you'll find, so the reason we practice these exercises and we put our focus on these exercises is because then when you go and change childhood memories and other negative references, it's much easier because you've got the skill. So hopefully that helps. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to take us all through the exercise, and we're going to aim at, let's see, who did we have? The alone and we're going to aim at insomnia, being alone, being worried, and anything else that is bothering you. Okay, so you can aim at your own thing, or we can all aim at those particular ones. Everybody okay to do that? Very good. All right. Somebody says, I feel triggered right now, and I'm triggered by the fact that I'm triggered. I know what you mean. I know that well. Okay, so we're going to do the exercise straight away. So take a deep breath, close your eyes. All right, and I want you to think of your favorite color. Imagine being surrounded by that beautiful color. It's the most beautiful shade of this color that you've ever seen. And imagine it surrounding you completely. Feel the feeling of that beautiful color. Very good. Good job. And now think of your subject. And imagine holding that subject, that person, animal, place, or activity in your arms in a hug. And feel the feeling of that love and appreciation that you have for the subject. The connection, the love, the appreciation. Very good. And now notice the feeling, the physical feeling in your chest. And feel your heart opening with love. All that love and appreciation you have for your subject is beaming out from your heart like a light, like a searchlight. Very good. And now imagine that light or energy spreading down to your toes, up to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that beautiful light, that energy, that love and appreciation. Very, very good. And now imagine that light or energy filling each of the 50 trillion cells that make up your body. Love each cell just for existing. Good job. And now imagine the little you in front of you and give that little child a hug, that little you. Give them a hug. Tell them how much you love them and that they're perfect exactly as they are. Good job. Very good. And now, fill your subject with that same light or energy, that love and appreciation. Love them just for existing. And now imagine they're trying to get away from you. They don't want to be with you. Some kind of rejection. And keep them filled with that same love, that light, that energy, even if they don't want to be with you. Pure, unconditional love. Very, very good. And now, think of the idea of insomnia, or whatever you want to aim at, and the fact that you can't sleep or you won't sleep, or however that is existing for you. And first of all, love sleep. Send love to the idea of sleep. See yourself sleeping and feel that love for sleeping. And fill that version of you full of that light, that energy, that appreciation and love. And then imagine you can't sleep, or whatever it is that you're aiming at, that it doesn't happen, and maintain that love the same way you did with the subject not wanting to be with you. Good job. And now the idea of being alone. Fill that idea with love or whatever else you're aiming at. So whatever your target is, fill that with the same love and appreciation. And now send that love and appreciation, that light and energy, to everyone else in this session. Imagine each person in the session being filled with that same love and energy and that light, regardless of what happens, regardless of whether they achieve what they want or not. Just love each person here just for existing. Very good. And you can open your eyes. And how was that for everyone? Was that good? Very good. All right. So let's have some feedback, questions. Let me know if that worked for you. Let me know if it didn't work for you, so we can troubleshoot and make sure that that we improve and help you get what you want. So let's see. Very relaxing and expansive. Good. Very good. I'm glad to hear that. And anything else? Any other wonder? Let's have a look.
And almost falling asleep.
And almost falling asleep. Very good, very good. And so this is great because, you know, for those who have the insomnia thing, you know, bear this in mind. And of course, when this video is up, you can use it before you go to bed. Listen to just this section before you go to bed, if that helps you to feel sleepy as well. Someone else says, never have sent it to the insomnia, so it felt a bit odd. Yes. So that is, you know, that's the power of this, is sending this power to, or this energy and that, to the things that you don't want. So insomnia, an empty bank account, people that trigger you, politicians, if you know, once you're really strong, once you're able to do that, you know, situations that the coronavirus, the fact that you can't go out, you know, the lack of toilet paper, send it to whatever's bothering you at the time. But again, remember that if you start to do that and you find you can't, or as Katrina was saying earlier, you know, contradicting thoughts or feelings come up, then just go back to, you know, go back a few steps and try easier targets. So in the superpower course, what we do with this is the earlier targets, we start with like a song you don't like or a food you don't like, you know, little easier things, just to, again, get that, like the target practice, just to get those, develop those skills. So let's see, there's another in the chat. It was very good, but I noticed it was easier to move the light or energy to my right side of my body as compared to the left. So weird. Now that is interesting. Again, you know, practice it over and over. And here's a tip as well. When you can't do something, love the fact that you can't do it. So in this case, love the fact that you couldn't spread it to the left-hand side of the body. When you can't feel the feeling at all, when you can't feel love, love the fact that you can't feel love, even if you can't feel it. So intent, you know, just make that decision. I love the fact that I can't feel love, because that lowers the resistance. It takes out the struggle and the fight, and it opens you up. And with the right and left side of the body, of course, the other side of what we do, I would be curious to know any issues with females or yourself, or anything to do with female issues. Would be interesting to know if there was anything going on there. Because the left side usually or often represents female and the right represents male. So it would be interesting to know if there's anything, if that means anything. Someone else says, I saw myself as a child first, and that seemed to be more powerful to me. And the love energy feels very strong, lots of light, and sending it to others is quite a wonderful experience, becoming easier and easier. I'm so grateful. I'm so thrilled for you. I'm so excited for you. Well done. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful to hear. Somebody else said, your voice is so relaxing. Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you. All right. And so now keep practicing keep doing the target practice. Watch these videos again. If you're finding something difficult, or if you're feeling doubt, and doubt is a very common feature of change. As we're making changes to ourselves, especially core changes, which this is, one of the ways that the subconscious tries to protect us is to produce the chemicals that create feelings of doubt, to stop us from making core changes, to keep us the same, because the subconscious is always trying to keep us the same, to keep us safe, because that's just the way we're designed. So when you start to feel doubt, don't allow yourself to go with it and buy into it. You know, stop, watch some comedy or play some music or whatever, and watch these videos again to remind yourself of the progress that you can make, that you are making, that you have made, that you can make. All right. So I hope that helps. And was there anything else in the chat? Steve, is there anything you wanted to add, and any other questions from anyone?
Just a reminder about the Thursday workshop.
Oh, yes. So on Thursday we have the full day workshop. So for those who do want to go more into the childhood memories, the subconscious references, and that, on Thursday we'll be doing that full day workshop online like this in Zoom, where we will be helping whoever's on the call in that session to actually find those specific references, subconscious references, childhood memories, and we'll be changing them, along with breakout rooms for private. So on Zoom, we have the ability to take you into a little separate session within the main session. So if anyone's struggling with trauma, for example, if you've got any trauma, don't do that on your own. That would be, we would be able to help you with that in a private session. So if you are interested in attending that, the link is in the email that I sent to you on Friday, but it's also on the resources page where the recordings of these are. And it also means that on Thursday, of course, we won't be having this session because we'll be doing that full day workshop. So here we're today, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we will see you all here, same place, same time tomorrow. And of course, any other questions, let us know, and keep practicing, keep practicing. All right. Any other questions before we finish? Wanda?
Last week that you're going to be doing this, or you're going to continue the following week?
If this is popular, if we continue to get plenty of people, we'll do it again next week. Yes. So we want to do it for as long as it's useful, as long as people want to attend and are finding it useful.
Okay.
All right. You're very welcome. All right. And so let's just check any other questions. Lots of thank yous. You're very, very welcome, all of you. I love the fact that I'm learning so much. Good. All right. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep practicing, of course, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.